Hello, I'm going to do the Capricorn energy reading, and this may or may not resonate with you. If it does, take the parts that do resonate. If it does not, leave the parts that do not resonate, as those may be meant for someone else. All right, we're going to look at what you may possibly be struggling with is third eye chakra. What you may need to look at is light, number 19, which is the sun, and possible future energies. We have emotional withdrawal, the 8 of Cups. That could be emotional withdrawal, but it also could be walking away from something. It could also represent having that time to yourself, kind of, because he's sitting here on the beach and he's just having that time to himself to process and work through things and to find that time to work on himself. And sometimes we need that to get that clarity. Sometimes we don't want to deal with things and we keep ourselves super busy so that we don't have to face them. But when we have that time to ourselves and we have to deal with something, sometimes, it may not be the easiest thing, but it's the best thing because we have to process and face things. And look at that. For overall energy, we have rejoice and celebration, which is that 3 of Cups. And I feel like it's going from this emotional withdrawal where you're processing something to this rejoice and celebration, and that you're happy that you did it. And that's what I was just saying, is that sometimes when we have to deal with those things, we find it hard. But after we do it, we're like, oh, I feel so much better. So what you may possibly be struggling with is third eye chakra, and that is your intuition, and it's that inner guidance and listening to that. Sometimes our inner voice is telling us something, but we want to ignore it, that we don't want to deal with it, that we want to almost pretend we're not recognizing it or are finding reasons to not listen to it. So I feel like that may be what you're struggling with, and that you have to be more in tune with that. And then we have the number 19, which is the sun card, and it's that happiness, that light. Sometimes when we listen to our inner voice, it sheds light on something. And sometimes when we do something and then time goes by and we look back and we're like, oh, I had a feeling that was going to happen, or I knew I should have done this, or I knew I should have done that, or I shouldn't have done this, or and then it's like we look back and we're like, oh boy, hindsight is 20/20. But if you're having those feelings now, I feel like it's maybe you need to explore those, right? Maybe you need to be more in touch with those. Maybe you need to listen to that more. Here we have the 8 of Cups again. And he's thinking, he's got his hand on his chin, and he's thinking, and he's walking away from the cups, and he's by the beach. And we have by the beach again. We've got the sun that's kind of coming through, but he's really thinking about things. And I feel like what I think is really cool is how different people who do different tarot card decks, they have their own perception of each card and how it's kind of different, but it's kind of the same, right? That this one says emotional withdrawal, this one's got his hand on his chin, so he's thinking, he's working through things, he's trying to figure things out. So having trouble with really getting in touch with your own emotions and your own feelings. 4 of Cups, again, kind of by yourself, not interested, people coming around, not really wanting to face something. And then we have the 3 of Pentacles, working on something. So having trouble focusing on something, having trouble maybe there's someone around you that you're like, I don't really know if I want to have that person in my life or not. Maybe you're thinking, maybe there's somebody that causes you a lot of stress, or causes you a lot of drama, or causes you a lot of anxiety, and you're like, I just don't know if I want to have that person around anymore. Or it could be a relationship, and maybe you've lost that interest in that relationship, right? Whether it's a friendship or a partnership, and you're like, I don't know, is this is this something that's fulfilling for me? It could also be a job. You could be wondering about that, saying, you know, I'm just not feeling fulfilled in my job. Maybe it's where you live. Sometimes we need to really go for those big changes, and I feel like there's just a big decision that you have, that you're trying to figure out, where do I go from here? What do I do from here? How do I move on from this? Whether it's a relationship or, you know, a situation, a job, living, that there's something big. And I feel like that inner voice is trying to tell you something, but you're not really listening to it, that you're kind of, maybe you've put it off long enough, but now it's gotten to the point where you're like, yeah, I think I have to deal with this. We have the High Priest, number 5, and that is the Hierophant. And I feel like, again, that's listening to that inner voice, and it's what's the best thing for you. Then we have the 5 of Wands, and then we have the Ace of Wands. Sometimes if we have people around us and we say, hey, I want to change my job, or hey, I want to move, but those people don't want us to, and they're thinking about themselves, so then they talk us out of it. And then we're like, well, you know, we still have that empty feeling, or we still have that frustration of, gee, I, you know, really had wanted to do that, and I wish I had done that, and I didn't. And maybe in the past, that's something that happened where you listened to that other person a lot, and then you felt this resentment, or it wasn't fulfilling. Because here we have the 5 of Wands, and it's like, who's on your side and who's on the other side? Just really trying to figure out who's that support, who's supportive. Looking at who's supportive, who's on your side, who's there for you. The Hierophant can also represent somebody that is very loyal, somebody that you can trust, somebody that is going to give you true, honest, unbiased advice, somebody that you can rely on. We have the World Tree, number 21, which is the World. We have the 4 of Wands, and then we have the High Priestess. And the High Priestess, again, is that getting more in touch with that inner voice. And I feel like over here, this is what you're struggling with. But again, over here, we have that in that future energy is like, okay, I'm going to listen to that more. I'm going to be more aware of what my inner voice is telling me, and to look into those options or make those changes. We have the World Tree, which is the world, which is success and victory. But I love this one because it has the 4 seasons around the tree, and saying that, you know, sometimes it takes time to realize that. And then we have the snake, which represents wisdom, and that learning these things takes time, and that it's sometimes we repeat the same thing over and over and over again until we finally learn things, and we like, okay, this time I have to change it up. It has to be different. We have the 4 of Wands here, which represent a partnership and working together. We have the 2 people that are, you know, they're working together and they're making the apple cider, and it's learning to work together with people that support you, not people that drag you down or work against you. And then bottom of the deck, we have the Green Man, which is the Fool, which is new beginnings and new starts. I love it because we have this very green here, and that's green here. And it's growing and learning, and that's what we need to do. So let me grab these. Sometimes we make decisions and we're like, what was I thinking? Right? And then maybe it's like, I don't know, can I even trust myself, right? Am I going to make the best decision for myself? But it's okay, instead of beating myself up about something that I did or did not do, it's like, how can I learn from that, and how can I do it differently the next time around? Right? Definitely. That's what I was just saying, because the King of Swords is somebody who is analytical, that if maybe I'm not listening to my inner voice because I questioned what I did before in the past, but again, analyzing, what can I change? What can I make different this time around, so that I'm not making the same mistake, or I'm approaching things differently. We have the Page of Wands, which is Pages is young energy, new directions, actually taking Look at that. And then we have the Queen of Wands actually making things happen, actually doing things, right? Getting control of a situation. We have the Moon, and that can represent Pisces, but it is also kind of, even though you're not sure what you're doing, you know, or what direction that you want to go in, maybe there's that you're unclear about who's on your side and who's not on your side, or what is your next move that you want to take. But it's not being deceptive to yourself anymore. It's like, okay, before I was kind of cloudy about what I wanted to do, but I'm not going to let that take control of me anymore. Again, we have the Knight of Wands. I feel like there's a lot of action here. You may have those doubts. Sometimes when we start to do things, we start to have that doubt, and we start to question ourselves, and we start to wonder. We have the Knight of Cups. It's new emotions and new feelings, but I feel like it's almost like being your own biggest cheerleader, is because, like, come on, like, I can do it, I can change it, I can do it differently. Again, we have the High Priestess, so I feel we have in this future energy, we have the High Priestess, we have the High Priestess. So I feel like it's really becoming in touch with yourself. And then, you know, that's what you were struggling with to begin with. We have the King of Coins, which is that grounding energy, being patient with yourself, learning from situations and not getting frustrated with yourself. Sometimes we get so irritated with ourselves that we didn't do things, or we should have done things differently, but then that stops us from our progress. So being patient with yourself, looking at something before you actually do it, and working at, you know, and saying, okay, I really feel comfortable with this. This really makes me feel good about it. Getting into your own power. We have the Emperor. He's somebody who's very powerful, somebody that knows what he wants and where he wants to go. Sometimes we kind of just feel like I feel like wandering over here. That's the word that just came to mind, is over here you're wandering. Over here you're like just not interested. You're questioning it. You're like, how do I work on this? How do I get past this? I don't know. I don't feel like working on things. I don't feel like dealing with things. But then it's like, if I want change, if I want light, if I want sun, if I want positivity, how do I change things? What do I do? How do I get more in control? And sometimes we have to take that emotional withdrawal and just sort through that and ask ourselves those questions. We also have the Hanging Man, which is seeing things from a different perspective. That really changes things up. Sometimes we get in our same routines, we do the same thing, we're in the same energy, we're in the same spot. And sometimes if we just get out of that and we change up our area, we change up, we do something different. And sometimes that can be that spark that gets the ball rolling, that gets us to see things from a different perspective. You know, sometimes we have those things around us that we don't even take advantage of, such as, do you live close to the beach, but yet you never go to the beach? You know, do you live close to the mountains, but you never go for a hike? Or do you live close to a lake, but yet you never go for a boat ride? Or you know, is there something around you that people will come to visit to see, and that they use it, but you don't use it? You know, is there something that you're just not taking advantage of, that there's something around you that you're not seeing, that you can take advantage of that? And you can do that. And sometimes it's like, wow, you know, I'm so glad that I did this because I don't normally do this. Or is there something around you? Is there an attraction that most people go to that you just haven't been there? Like, you know, something that people come from out of town, and you don't really think about it because it's always there. But now it's maybe being more aware of, okay, what are those things what is that thing that maybe I can change up my atmosphere, and I can go do that, and maybe that will spark something. Or is there an attraction around you that a lot of people come see, and you're like, yeah, I've always wanted to go there, and I always wanted to check that out, whether it's a museum or, you know, whatever that may be, and maybe check that out. And sometimes that's just the spark that you need, because you're changing up that atmosphere. Or you've been meaning to go visit a friend or something, and they keep saying, come visit, or let's do lunch or do something, and then you do that. And sometimes that's just that one thing that will spark that, right? to give you that different perspective. You're like, you know what? I think I am going to change things. I think I am going to take actions with all of these wands here, right? I think I am going to take those actions, and then ending in the Emperor. All right, so I have these two. So we have Turkey Spirit, give with gratitude and grace, and Beaver Spirit, lay a solid foundation. Having that foundation that you feel is more solid, that you can rely on, that you can, listening to that inner voice and trusting yourself and realizing, okay, if it doesn't work out the way that I thought it would, it's still going to be okay. If it works out even better, I'm super excited. I'm going to take that energy and I'm going to build on it. I'm going to rejoice in celebration. Even if it's, okay, I found that thing that I'm going to go visit, and I'm going to get myself out of my normal routine, and I'm going to change things up, and celebrate yourself for making that effort, right? All right, thank you so much for watching. As always, stay positive, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.